Hi, Rushrecap here. Today I am going to explain a movie called Doors. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie opens with a surreal and unsettling scene. We find ourselves in a dense forest, where a man in his underwear stumbles between the trees, appearing completely disoriented. There's an eerie silence in the air, broken only by his unsteady footsteps and heavy breathing. At the same time, we hear the voice of a woman frantically calling 911, her tone laced with worry. She's reporting her husband missing, explaining that he wandered into the forest, and she hasn't seen him since. While her voice fades, another call comes in. This time, a new voice nervously explains that they're trapped in their own room, unable to leave, almost as if an invisible force is keeping them inside. And then, a third call plays. The voice on the line, panicked and shaken, reports seeing several people standing completely still right in front of a mysterious door. The tension is immediately high, and we're only moments into the film. The scene then shifts to a classroom, where Mr. Johnson, a middle-aged teacher, prepares to administer the SAT exams for a group of students. There's a mixture of nervous excitement and tension in the room, typical of students about to face a challenging test. Among them are Lizzie, Ash, Rory, and a guy named Jake. They've got their pencils and papers ready, anxiously waiting for the test to begin. Mr. Johnson, ever the rule enforcer, decides to collect everyone's phones, one by one, placing them securely in a cabinet to prevent any possibility of cheating. He turns the key in the lock with a stern expression, ensuring that no one will be distracted or tempted to sneak a peek at their devices. As the exam finally begins, the students settle into their chairs, focusing intently on their answer sheets. But Jake, unable to resist, scribbles a quick note on a scrap of paper and tosses it across the room, aiming for Lizzie. The note, however, lands on Ash's desk instead. Ash, with a slight smirk, picks up the note and opens it, finding an invitation from Jake, suggesting he and Lizzie make out later. She laughs softly, amused at Jake's boldness. Mr. Johnson catches sight of the disruption, raises an eyebrow, and clears his throat, reminding everyone to concentrate on their test. Just as the students begin to settle down, a faint but persistent ringing breaks the silence. At first, they ignore it, assuming it's just a passing distraction. But the sound doesn't stop. The cabinet where Mr. Johnson had locked their phones is now ringing non-stop, disrupting the quiet in the exam hall. Mr. Johnson himself receives a call, and when he answers it, his expression shifts from calm to visibly shaken. Whatever he hears on the other end clearly unnerves him. He tells the students to stay focused and asks Rory to keep an eye on the class. Without further explanation, he rushes out of the room, leaving the students bewildered. Time passes. The persistent ringing from the cabinet becomes impossible to ignore, filling the room with a tense and eerie atmosphere. The students exchange uneasy glances, waiting for Mr. Johnson's return, but he doesn't come back. With each passing minute, their curiosity and concern grow, especially as the unanswered calls continue. Finally, unable to stand it any longer, Jake stands up, casting a determined look at the cabinet. He's about to open it when Rory tries to stop him, cautioning him to wait. But before they can argue further, the speakers crackle to life. An announcement echoes through the room, instructing the students to lock themselves inside the classroom and not leave under any circumstances. The voice on the speaker sounds tense and afraid, sending a wave of panic through the students. The sense of dread is palpable. As teenagers often do, however, they resist the advice and turn on the radio, desperate for answers about what's happening beyond the walls of their classroom. Static crackles on the radio, then a news broadcast cuts in, revealing distressing reports from outside. Something has landed on Earth, and the authorities, including the military, are scrambling to make sense of it. The tension grows as gunshots ring out from somewhere outside the building. The students look around, unsure of what to make of these terrifying developments. Then, out of nowhere, a dead bird crashes against the classroom window, making them all jump in fright. Deciding they can't wait any longer, they break open the cabinet and retrieve their phones, each of them immediately noticing dozens of missed calls and texts from their families. The messages are frantic, each one conveying a desperate urgency for them to come home or stay safe. Suddenly, Ash begins to feel something strange. A haunting sense of unease fills her mind, and she begins to experience strange hallucinations. Distraught, she leaves the classroom, and her friends follow, too spooked to stay behind alone. They walk through the eerie, deserted halls, noticing that the entire building is eerily silent. No other students or teachers are anywhere to be seen. Then, they stumble upon something deeply unsettling: a massive door, standing in the middle of the hallway, blocking their path. The door looks out of place, almost otherworldly, and its surface seems to pulse faintly, as if alive. Curious and fearful, they throw a few objects at it, watching in shock as the door absorbs them immediately. The sight chills them, but Ash, filled with an odd sense of fascination, suggests they should see what happens if they go through it. Her friends are terrified by the suggestion and try to dissuade her, but Ash can't seem to tear her eyes away from the mysterious door, as if she's hypnotized. As she inches closer, Lizzie grabs her, pulling her away just before she steps through. But the intense situation brings out unexpected emotions. Ash impulsively kisses Lizzie, an act that takes them both by surprise. Jake, seeing this, is furious, feeling betrayed and shocked at seeing his girlfriend involved with Ash. Tensions rise, leading to an intense argument. In the heat of the moment, Ash accidentally pushes Jake toward the door. To everyone's horror, the door immediately pulls him inside, and Rory, standing close by, gets sucked in too. Shocked and devastated, Ash realizes what's happened. Overcome with guilt, she decides to step through the portal herself, leaving only Lizzie behind, staring at the empty hallway. Outside, the city has become a ghost town. News reports reveal that millions of people have vanished without a trace, and while some have returned, they're no longer the same. Scientists are scrambling for answers and have launched Project Knockers, a program where volunteers enter the doors to gather information and hopefully bring back some explanation for the phenomenon. Months pass, and the world adapts to the mysterious presence of these doors, which have now appeared everywhere: in schools, homes, forests, and streets. The government and scientific communities are working tirelessly to understand their nature. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some people believe the doors are portals to other dimensions. Others say they're part of an alien invasion. A handful claim they're divine punishments, while others think they're technological experiments gone wrong. Humanity is left in a perpetual state of fear and wonder, unsure of what to believe. Volunteers for Project Knockers are dispatched through the doors, equipped with advanced communication devices, recorders, and tracking equipment. The government promises substantial rewards for those brave enough to venture in, and even more if they return with valuable information. Despite the risks, the doors spark a strange fascination, a call that many find impossible to ignore. Among those answering the call are two young men, Taylor and Vince, childhood friends with a history of getting into trouble together. They're thrill seekers and adrenaline junkies who sign up for the project, hoping for fame, fortune, and maybe a shot at redemption. Before stepping through, they're briefed on the dangers and shown footage of previous volunteers. The recordings are blurry and disturbing, showing environments that defy logic: upside-down landscapes, endless darkness, and creatures that don't resemble anything known on Earth. The volunteers are told to keep calm, stay in contact, and most importantly, return if they feel something pulling at them mentally or emotionally. Ignoring this feeling could lead to severe consequences, they're warned, as if something within the doors has the power to control thoughts. With a mix of trepidation and excitement, Taylor and Vince finally step through a door, crossing into a world that is both familiar and alien. They find themselves standing in a forest similar to those on Earth, but everything is slightly off. Trees seem to breathe, and the ground pulses softly, as though the entire landscape is alive. They exchange nervous glances, and Taylor suggests they press forward, determined to document everything they see. As they venture deeper, the environment becomes increasingly unsettling. They begin to hear strange whispers echoing through the trees, though no one is visible. The whispers sound like memories from their past, voices of people they've lost or hurt, triggering a series of disturbing flashbacks. Taylor and Vince attempt to ignore them, pushing forward in silence, but the voices grow louder, taunting them and resurfacing painful memories they'd long buried. Their communication device crackles, and Taylor's voice becomes shaky. He admits he's beginning to feel the pull they were warned about, a strange compulsion to stop moving, to just give up and stay. Before Vince can respond, they both notice a strange figure in the distance, partially hidden by the trees. It appears humanoid but translucent, like a shadow that is somehow cast in 3 dimensions. The figure watches them, standing completely still, its eyes, or what appear to be eyes, fixed intently on the two men. Taylor's pulse quickens, and he mutters that they should turn back, but Vince, caught in a trance, ignores him and takes a step forward. The figure suddenly moves, mimicking Vince's movements exactly. When he raises his arm, it does the same. When he takes a step back, it mirrors him. A chill runs down their spines as they realize they're staring at some kind of reflection, but one that seems to have a mind of its own. Vince calls out to it, his voice cracking with fear, but it doesn't respond. Instead, it starts walking towards them, closing the distance between them at an unnervingly fast pace. Panicked, Taylor grabs Vince, urging him to run. They sprint through the forest, dodging trees and leaping over roots, the whispers growing louder and more malicious, almost as if they're alive and laughing. Just when they think they've lost the figure, they stumble into a clearing. In the middle of this eerie, empty space stands another door, different from the one they entered. This one is massive, covered in strange, intricate symbols that seem to glow faintly in the dark. The pull Taylor felt earlier intensifies, and he's drawn to the door, unable to resist its lure. Vince tries to hold him back, yelling at him to remember the warning. But it's too late. Taylor reaches for the door, and as his fingers make contact, he's instantly sucked inside. Vince is left standing there, horrified and alone, the whispers growing into deafening roars around him. With no other choice, he decides to follow Taylor, hoping he can bring him back. He steps through, bracing himself for whatever awaits on the other side. The scene shifts to a group of scientists in a dimly lit control room, anxiously monitoring the feeds from various volunteers. They've seen footage of strange, alien landscapes and unimaginable horrors, but Taylor and Vince's feed has suddenly gone dark. They scramble to re-establish a connection, fearing the worst. One of the scientists, Dr. Keene, reviews the footage from their devices and notes something disturbing. Just before the signal cut out, the screen showed dozens of translucent figures surrounding them, each one an identical copy of Taylor and Vince, as if the door had created an army of clones. Dr. Keene's face pales as she realizes that the doors might not just be portals but entities themselves. Sentient beings capable of creating replicas, consuming memories, and perhaps even trapping souls. Her theory is terrifying. The doors may be feeding on human emotions, drawing out memories and using them to create new, twisted versions of those who enter. Desperate for answers, she proposes a risky idea. She wants to enter one of the doors herself to witness their effects firsthand. Her colleagues are horrified, reminding her of the dangers, but her determination is unwavering. Driven by a mix of curiosity and guilt, she believes it's the only way to uncover the truth. As Dr. Keene prepares to step through, she's interrupted by a broadcast from the government, warning civilians to avoid all doors at any cost. The broadcast reveals that they've lost contact with all but a handful of volunteers, and those who have returned are unrecognizable, shells of their former selves, devoid of personality, as though their very essence has been stripped away. Back in the forest, Vince finds himself in a vast, endless white space, disoriented and frightened. In the distance, he spots Taylor, who stands with his back to him, motionless. Relieved but wary, Vince approaches, calling his name. But when Taylor turns around, Vince's heart stops. His friend's face is blank, expressionless, and his eyes are empty, devoid of life. Vince realizes with horror that this isn't the Taylor he knew. It's just a shell, a hollow echo of the person he once was. Vince tries to flee, but every direction he turns, he's met by more figures. Each one a mirror image of Taylor, his own haunting reflection mixed in. The voices in his mind grow louder, pulling at his memories, his emotions, feeding on every fear and insecurity he has. He fights to keep his grip on reality, but it feels like he's slipping, like the door is consuming him from the inside out. As his consciousness begins to fade, he catches a final glimpse of Taylor's vacant face before everything goes dark. The film ends on a chilling note, cutting back to Earth where scientists are preparing a new wave of volunteers, still unaware of the horrors that await beyond the doors. As they step forward, the audience is left with a haunting question. What lies on the other side of these doors, and will humanity ever truly understand their purpose? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, hit like and subscribe to Rushrecap for more stories like this. See you in the next one.